What's up, friends? Hey, it is Ryan, and this is the Studio Sherpas podcast. And this is, well, I was going to say this is another episode, but obviously it's another episode because, well, sort of I did that intro, but I'm super glad that you're here. I'm super glad and excited for our guest today, who is Cliff Ravenscraft. Cliff is a business mentor, a life coach, and motivational speaker. He mentors coaches, consultants, and thought leaders through the transition from their unfulfilling day job into their own responsible and profitable online business so that they can live the life of their dreams and do the work they feel most called to do in this world. That sounds amazing, and I love the clarity and all of that. Cliff, welcome to the show.
Ryan, thank you so much, my friend. It is an honor to be here.
Well, I'm so happy. I'm a little bit sad. You said you're in Northern Kentucky, and it's like, you said it's 20 degrees where you're at. It's 21 here in Detroit. I don't know how it's warmer where I'm at than it is where you're at.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. It was 20 degrees this morning. It's actually 34 right now. So.
Oh my gosh, it's not even freezing. Come on, man. Well, paint a little picture for us. I mean, obviously, you know, our audience, I don't know how many people are wanting to quit the thing that they're doing and start an online business and kind of, you know, go that route. But, you know, just talk a little bit about what your life looks like and what your work looks like.
Sure. Well, let me just give you a super fast Reader's Digest version, and I'll try to do it in like under 2 minutes.
Okay.
So I used to work in insurance for a family-run insurance agency owned by my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
I worked there for 12 years. That business was started by my grandfather in 1937. I was next in line to take it over. Had I not left when I did, my dad's just retired in the past 2 years. I'd be making somewhere around $1.5 to $2.5 million a year in personal income, owning my own insurance agency, had I not decided to leave that.
Okay.
What I will tell you is I absolutely loved my career as an insurance agent for the first 10 or so years. But in December 2005, I started podcasting as a hobby. Not looking to make any money from it, just had a passion for technology. I decided to launch a podcast with my wife called the Weekly Lost Podcast, devoted to the television show Lost. By our third episode, we had 27,000 subscribers around the world. We were one of the first 100 or so podcasters in the world. And we grew that to an audience of about 60,000 people. And I started getting letters from people all over the world saying, this content is changing my life. And I'm like, seriously? That's incredible. And some of the things that people were saying in their letters were, you know, because of you, I'm reconciling my marriage with my wife. Because of you, my kids have their dad back in their life. Because of you, my wife and I are debt free today. Because of you, I've recommitted my life to faith and God. And I'm like, this is incredible. And about 9-10 months into this, I'm like, I wonder what life would be like if I could do this for a living instead of podcasting. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, instead of jumping ahead of the story, instead of insurance. Mm-hmm. And long story short, 2 years after podcasting started for me, I decided to leave my day job. January 1st, 2008, I'm full-time self-employed. I have no idea. That's not true. I had some ideas of how I would make my money, but the idea was that I wonder if I could make all of my money from the content that I create. That would be really awesome. Mm-hmm. But until then, I know that people will pay me to teach them how to launch a podcast. Well, what happened is I tried to go down those two diverging paths, and we got pretty good. We were making about $30,000 a year from the content side of the equation. But the business was making more money and had more opportunity for me in the podcast consulting side of the business. People who wanted to launch a podcast. Over time, it just got to where they were too competing for my time, effort, and energy. And I decided to focus all of the money generating side of things on the podcast coaching and consulting. I had this brand called Podcast Answer Man, which you may see here. But I did that for about 12 years, and I got to the place where Podcast Answer Man grew to a $500,000 a year business, and where I've personally been responsible for helping more than 40,000 people launch their own podcast. If you look in the podcast category for Apple's business category, more than half of the top 100 podcasters in there, and certainly in the upper end of that, are clients that I've worked with. And The thing is, though, is I never left my insurance career so that I could be the world's leading authority on helping people launch a podcast. And so what happened was I found that the more successful financially I got in helping people launch podcasts, I was having less and less time devoted to creating the content that I felt most compelled to share. So so I remember a decade after starting in my insurance career, I said, I wonder what life would be like if I could do this instead of insurance. A decade after having my own business, now as the world's leading authority for how to launch a podcast, I wonder what life would be like if I could do this, the same thing, instead of the technical questions related to podcasting.
Yeah.
And so I read this book called The Big Leap. It was a September 2017. It's written by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about 4 different areas that people will work in, 4 different zones, if you will. Your zone of incompetence. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are stuck working in jobs where they're in their zone of incompetence. That means they're not really great at what they're doing. Pretty much everybody is better at it, but they just happen to get paid to do that. Typically, and you don't get paid well. Then there's your zone of competence. This is something I was like, you can do this. But the thing is you're no better at it than anyone else, and you're replaceable. And again, you don't get paid very well to do that. Then there is, on the entrepreneurial journey for most people, what is seemingly the holy grail, but it's a lie, this zone of excellence. You see, zone of excellence is when you're doing work that you're pretty much better at it than anyone else out there. I mean, it's not that there's nobody better than you, but you're at the top 4% of the people who would ever do the work that you're doing. When you do that work, you are excellent. I mean, you're great at it. There's a problem. And by the way, since I told you there's not much money in your zone of working in your incompetence zone, there's some money, but not a lot in working in your zone of competence. But when you get into your zone of excellence, you can see your income increasing. And in fact, there may not be a limit to how much money you can make inside of your zone of excellence. And this is where most people get stuck, Ryan. And even, I used to think it was only corporate people that got the golden handcuffs. It's like, man, I make so much money, but I hate what I'm doing. There's no way I could ever leave it because I can't leave this pay. And the problem is that your zone of excellence, you may be better at it than most other people, and you may be uniquely gifted and talented to do that work. But there's only a very small percentage of the time that it really lights you up. It really excites you. It really makes you feel alive. And so there's a 4th zone that Gay Hendricks talked about, and it's called your zone of genius. This is that thing that you do that when you do it, time does not exist for you. You literally are on an existence of reality that is without time. Ryan, have you ever had any work where you sit down and do it, and the next thing you know, you look up and it's 8 hours later and it feels like you've been working for 5 or 10 minutes?
Yes.
That's when you're doing that kind of work, it's your zone of genius. And the converse of this is true. There's some things where you could be spending, let's just say, have you ever had an 8-hour day where you were literally working nonstop for the 8 hours? I mean, you put in tons of effort. And at the end of that 8 hours, you are exhausted. I mean, all energy, all life force has been drained from you. And when you leave the work, there's nothing of you left. You're an empty shell. All right. But then when you think about it, you start to question, did I really accomplish anything today?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I did a lot of things, but man, what is there of importance that I accomplished today? And you can't really account for it. You just don't feel great about what you did. Yeah. You worked hard and you feel good because you worked hard. But at the end of the day, what was it all for? Now, here's the converse of this. There are, if you can find your zone of genius, it's possible that you could actually work for 1 hour or maybe even 20 minutes inside of your zone of genius, and you could have accomplished more in that 20 minutes than you could in an entire 8-hour day. When it comes to adding value to your clients, within a 20-minute window, you could create more value for somebody who's paid you $7,000 than if you worked for them for 3 solid weeks doing something inside of your zone of excellence. And what I realized is I know exactly what my zone of genius is. And I said, wow, I wonder if I could get to the place where in the next 6 months to a year, this is September 2017. I just read this book. I wonder what life would be like if I spent a minimum of 80% of my work week inside of my zone of genius only.
Whoa.
And within 90 days, I had shut down my $500,000 podcast Answer Man business. Okay, so that might have been more than 2 minutes, but it's still the Reader's Digest version of what I've got going on.
Oh, man, there's a lot in that intro. First off, as I don't know how I didn't put 2 and 2 together. You know, I think Mike Kim introduced or suggested that I reach out to you or something. You know Mike, right?
Yeah, Mike's a client of mine.
Yeah. Okay. So then it was probably Mike. I'm looking at your logo on your microphone there, and I'm like, oh wait, I've watched your videos, and I'm like, I have. Yes.
The reason why, do you know why you didn't put 2 and 2 together until you saw the logo?
Why?
Because 4 years ago, this is what I looked like.
Yeah, dude.
Hold on. This is what I used to look like.
Oh my gosh. Wow. If you're not watching this, you need to see that. That's amazing.
I've lost 100 pounds in the last actually, it's been 5 years. I started November 14th, 2014. I made a decision to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. And I've dropped over 100 pounds of body fat and put on over 25 pounds of pure muscle mass.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's probably why I didn't recognize you.
Yep.
So thank you for, probably 3.5 years ago, as I'm like studying and trying to figure out what to do podcast wise, brings us to today. So if you're listening to this show and you like the show, Cliff actually this is hilarious how this is even working out. I love that. I also love that you loved Lost.
Yes.
That's amazing. Just a quick question. I know everybody asks you this. How did you like the ending?
I hated the end.
Yeah.
I wasn't like many people. I mean, I'm not distraught by it. I mean, here's what I can tell you. First and foremost, I will say that Lost changed my life because it was my passion for Lost that got me into podcasting, and podcasting obviously changed my life. And if you watched it while Lost was happening, it was a phenomenon. Millions of people around the world were a part of it. It was the most creative online online companion experience, along with a
that's right. Show. I forgot about it. Was that Twitter? Like, did they have a thing? Twitter?
Well, here's what happened. The co-creators. Well, first of all, J.J. Abrams started the whole thing, and then it was with him. The co-creators and co-producers were Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse. So one thing they did right immediately is, back in the day, we were still using online forums like I think it was PHPBB.
Oh, and
so they actually had an online discussion forum called The Fuselage. And you could go in and ask questions of Damon and Carlton and the entire writing team. And the actors of the show all had their own threads, and they were actually listening and responding to questions from the community around the world. So that's number one. They had an online forum with direct access to the creators of the show, and where fans could log in and create topics like Easter eggs, scene by scene screenshots, and theories and all this other stuff. But then they had an incredible thing when the show wasn't on during the summer and during any of the hiatuses and stuff like that. They had these online things that were happening. So there was the Hanso Foundation or whatever, and Dr. James DeGroot and all this other stuff. But there was all these fake websites that you could go into with hidden clues and experiences. You could go to Oceanic Airlines and there would be tickets that you could buy. And I mean, it was an experience. And so I don't care how the show they could have just said, hey, it's been fun. And then said, fade to black. And I would be okay. Cause it's not, I would never judge the show Lost by its ending. I judge it by the experience it gave us for 6 years.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think it was all of the conspiracy. It was almost more entertaining, like looking for Easter eggs and like just kind of like theorizing. And that was, and then, the end was kind of like, oh, that's it. Like, man, we had all these great big ideas and there were way better ideas that people theorized. And then like, this is it. Yeah, that's good. Oh man. Well, so we're digressing a little bit, but I would love, I've had a couple of people reach out to me recently that, they listen to the show. They, maybe they bought some of our training. But they're not in this work full time, right? They're stuck in a 9 to 5. They're in their zone of incompetence or their zone of competence. But they really, what the thing that makes them come alive, it's the same thing. I left my job as I was editing video for my job. That wasn't my job responsibility, but I was making videos and I'm staying up till like 2 a.m. And I'm like, my wife is like, you must go to bed. And I'm like, oh man, let me just like, I'm just like, I could stay up till it's time to start work in the morning. Like and I realized like, oh man, I need to stop doing my work so that this is the only thing that I'm doing. So I know there are other people that listen to the show that say like, I want to be able to do this. This seems like this is my place of genius where I could just do this work full time. So what kind of encouragement or, what suggestions do you have for somebody that wants to take the leap? And I've had some conversations and I'm trying to help people along there. For me, it was a lot easier because we had like, Andrew and I were first married. We had like no debt. I was hardly making any money anyway. So to replace that income was not a very high bar. So for me, it's a little different than somebody that has, a good paying job, but they just have this burning passion and this desire to do video and not this like high paying job.
So the question, if I'm understanding, is what advice would I give to somebody who wants to go full time into their zone of genius? Who wants to leave the day job? Is that right?
That is it.
All right. So here's what I would say. For me, it all started with a question, and it's the most powerful question. What would life be like if, and then you fill in the blank. You hear that, you've heard that like somebody starts singing off key and the joke is, hey, whatever you do, don't quit your day job, right?
Right.
Well, if you can see behind me, and now I know some people are listening to audio, but there's a sign, and the bottom sign should say something along the lines of "Don't quit your daydream." Don't quit your daydream, my friends. Life is all about asking yourself this question: what do I want? What do I want? Now, I will tell you that our culture conditions us to eliminate that question from our phrasing vocabulary. What we want, that's selfish. What are you talking about? What you want, that's not responsible. You've got a good job. Do you know how lucky you are compared to other people? Why would you shake the boat? Why would you put so much at risk? That's just, why can't you just be happy with the job you have, with the income that you have? You got 2 weeks of vacation per year, blah, blah, blah. Just suck it up, buttercup. One day you'll be able to retire and live the life of your dreams.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is that you're not guaranteed to make it to age 65. So who tells you that you're actually going to make it to retirement? All right. And if you're stuck in a job that you hate, you're probably got a little bit of stress. And I encourage you just to spend a little bit of time on YouTube. What are the effects of cortisol? Just do a little YouTube search on that and see. By the way, cortisol is the stress hormone, and stress, when you're stressed, you release cortisol in your body, and it basically wrecks your system. It causes disease. Wow. So the more you hate your job, the more stress you have in your life, the more anxiety and fear and worry and doubt and all this other stuff that you have in your life. Either if you make it to retirement, you're not going to be able to do the things you wanted to do because your body's shut down. You're pretty much stuck in a wheelchair or whatever. Your life conditions aren't going to be what you think they are. So why not live now? That's the first question I would have. So ask yourself, what do you want? What would life be? By the way, this question will not hurt you, I promise. but it will start opening you up to things that may seem uncomfortable, but don't put any limits on it. So my number one piece of advice is this. I would ask you to get a journal. I actually have a bunch of my own journals. I have my Free the Dream logo on it. And I like to start on a blank piece of paper, and I like to put, what do I want? ? And what I would encourage you to do is come up with a list of 25 things. I do this frequently. I do this all the time. In fact, Ryan, I was at the gym yesterday, and I came up with a brand new list of what do I want. And so if I look at my list from December 10th, I want to weigh 175 or less by the end of December 2019. I want to weigh 165 or less by the end of January 2020. I want to create a $30,000 to $60,000 workshop weekend in January 2020. I want to make sure that my revenue in my business is a minimum of $30,000 a month, every month, January through June of next year, of 2020. I want to add Stephanie, my wife, to payroll effective January 1st, 2020. I want to start a new investment account in January 2020. Let's see here. I want the ability to pay for Megan's college tuition but with my personal income in 2020. I want to build my emergency fund back up to $30,000 by the end of September 2020. And I want to pay off Megan's current loan for her WKU by June 2020. These are things I want. Mm-hmm. So first thing I will tell you is start asking yourself, what is it you want? And don't allow yourself to filter this as to what you think other people might think about it. Yeah. You got to allow yourself to be selfish, to be materialistic, to be all these things that other people have put on you. If it comes to your mind when you ask the question, what do I want? Write it down. So that's my first thing, is to determine what it is that you want. What's the end result that you're going after? Yeah. And in fact, once you have that list, let's just say you have a list of 25 things that you want, then I encourage you to create maybe your top 10 out of the 25. And then out of that top 10, your top 3. And then choose the number one thing you most want out of life. Now you've got something to get you excited and fired up. Now, if you say, okay, I want to leave my day job and I want to create a business and I want to go out on my own because this is the kind of life, I want this kind of freedom. I want to be able to do the work that I feel most gifted, most talented, the work that keeps me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, gets me out of bed at 4 a.m. because I can't wait to get going on what it is that I do. It fills me up, lights me up, makes me feel alive. All right. So if you determine that you want to do that, you have to know that you want it, what you want it to look like, what's your ideal work week look like, what kind of clients do you want to work with, and also, why do I want it? And of course, the why do I want this is just as important as what I want. Having a clear picture of the things you want, but why you want it. When you think about all of those things that you listed in your 25, look at them. I bet you it's not as materialistic and selfish as you think it is. No. So much of it will be about you providing for your family. It's going to be providing in ways that you can give and show up and contribute to the world. That all of a sudden you're finally living life, not surviving, which basically means that you're meeting your own needs, but you're thriving in such a way that you contribute to the greater good of people around you. Mm-hmm. So you got to get a big why. And that's what knowing these things that you want, knowing things that all of a sudden inside of you, it's like, man, I feel compelled to give to this cause, to be able to have the freedom to do these things for my kids, to really take my relationship with my wife to the whole new level and have experiences that we'll never forget for the rest of our lives, that connect us at a deep level. This is what I want. This is why I want those things. And this is how I'm going to get it. So knowing what you want, why you want it, all of this is all put together in this first step. And then the next thing is to ask this question, another powerful. So first of all, what would life be like if ... if I had this? What would life be like if I had this instead of this? What would life be for me 5 years ago, I wonder what life would be like if I weighed less than 200 instead of nearly 300. Here I am, All right. What would, why would I want that? Why must I have it? Okay. Now, here's the next question. At what cost? Mm-hmm. You have to, nothing in life comes for free. There's always going to be some sort of investment that's necessary for you to get whatever you want in life. All right. So you need to ask yourself, at what cost? What am I willing to do? What actions am I willing to take? What behaviors am I willing to start? What behaviors am I willing to put an end to? How many hours am I willing to work? How many different products and services am I willing to offer? You need to be clear about at what cost. So for example, when I left my career as an insurance agent, I was like, hey, I just want to be able to have the freedom to create my own schedule. I want to be able to create content whenever I want to create content. I want to be able to engage and interact with community of thousands of people around the world that are emailing me and writing me letters. I just want to be able to do this. What would life be like if I could just find some way to meet my financial obligations and needs from my family doing this work instead of insurance? But I did not ask the question, at what cost? What am I willing to do? And what I found, Ryan, is that I left my day job. And what I haven't told you already is that for my first year in business, January through December 2008, I made $11,000 net income. Now, the business made more money than that, but it paid for all the business overhead. It paid for all the taxes. It paid for health insurance for our family. And it paid for a CPA because I had no idea what I was doing with all that stuff. But when it was all said and done at the end of the year, I only made $11,000 net income. Now, so I made that much money, but how much was I willing to work for all of that, to have all those expenses paid for and still come home with $11,000? And by the way, my first year in business was profitable, which I'm told that that's actually a good thing. Whatever. Anyway, what I will say is this. For the first 9 months, I worked 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week without a single day off. 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, not one day off. And then finally, September of 2008, I decided I'm going to start taking 1 day away a week off. All right. Now, to be able to give myself the freedom, thinking the way that I did back then, the only way I was comfortable doing that was increasing the number of hours I worked during the other 6 days a week.
Oh.
Now, you tell me, Ryan, do you think there's a reason why I ended up looking like this?
Yeah, there's definitely a reason. Ugh.
There's a reason why I look like that, because I sat in front of my computer. I barely ever walked more than 400 steps a day. 400 steps a day on average is the amount of physical activity I had in 2008. And by the way, but at the end of that year, I celebrated with a 24-hour nonstop podcast marathon. I recorded 24 hours of podcast within 24 hours, all of it published and put online by January 1st. And then about 2 hours after it was done, I was at the emergency room. And it turned out that I had massive gallstones and they had to remove my gallbladder. And through a whole set of circumstances, I almost died in the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
So you have to know what you want. I had no problem with that. I knew what I wanted. I knew why I wanted it too. I was very clear why I must make this happen. But I didn't ever ask myself back then, at what cost? Am I willing to work 15, 16 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week? And because I didn't ask that question, I just ended up doing it. So if I wanted to give somebody some advice, is when you start thinking about what you want, think about what you want your life to look like in this business that you want to create. Ask yourself first, and this is crazy, and it's insane to me that nobody ever told me to think about this when I first started my business. Well, before I tell you the question and the way that I go about this today, because in my bio, you said I help people start profitable online businesses. All right. Key emphasis on the word profitable. Because anybody can go start a business that's not profitable.
Yeah,
exactly. You can flounder for quite some time. It's not necessary. When I left my business, I did not have any idea how much money I could generate. Had no real goals. I was just like, hey, I'm going to go out and start this business, and I'm going to generate as much income as I can from whatever services that I feel confident enough to offer. By the way, there are so many things wrong with what I just said, but it's how I started my business. All right. So here's what I encourage people to do today. Have a very clear picture of the kind of business you want to start. But before you think about any products and service, before you think about what customers you want to serve, ask yourself the most important question. How much money will my business generate? Boom. There is no other question. I don't care what you're going to do, who your clients are, what you feel confident doing. Number one, you must ask yourself, how much money must I generate to live the life I feel called to live? If you want to be debt-free, you want to have your own home, you want to be able to go on vacations with your wife, you want to be able to have health insurance for your family, all of that stuff's there for you. You have to know that you want it. And then you need to go research how much would it cost.
Yeah.
And once you have those 25 things that you want and you've finally figured out of the 25, which of the things you must have, and then say, what's the dollar figure that it would cost for me to have my own business, not having all the stuff. I want to put money in retirement, have money in an emergency fund, money for this, money for that. How much money must I make? Is it 60,000? Is it 120,000? Is it 300,000? It doesn't matter what your number is, but you have to decide before you even think about launching your business, how much money must my business generate? Once you have that, it becomes real simple. Divide that number, whatever that annual number, divide it by 12.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is it $1 million? I happen to know that math. Not because I'm great at live math, but I've done the calculations on my calculator. If it's $1 million, you need $83,300 a month. All right. So the question is can you find 80 clients? Or could you find 40 clients to pay you $4,000 a month or $2,000 a month? Could you find 80 clients to pay you $1,000 a month? I mean, it's crazy, but this is the way to do it. And by the way, the average person I work with, they usually want to start off with, let's just say, $120,000 a year. That's the average client that I'm working with. And so that's $10K a month. All right. So $10K a month. I usually start out, well, is there anything you could do with your business where one client will pay you $10,000 a month of recurring revenue? I'm always shocked when I hear the answer is yes. It's happened. And then I said, well, why don't you go do that? Well, I never thought to do that. I was going to launch a membership site for $39 and I was try to get 10,000 people to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could do that. But if you know you could go and you've got the skills, talents, experience, expertise, and abilities within your zone of genius where you could powerfully see a client, a business that is willing to pay you $10,000 a month of recurring revenue for you to do what you're most gifted at, why would you do anything other than go find that one client?
No.
And then, now granted, 95 out of every 100 people are going to say, no, I can't. Nobody's going to pay me $10,000 a month for what? Okay, could you find 2 clients to pay you $5,000 a month recurring revenue? Could you find 4 clients who would pay you $2,500? Just make this as simple as possible. Stop going after the low-hanging fruit. You're talking about leaving your day job to go do what your zone of genius is, that thing that you're most gifted at, that thing that you're willing to do until 2 in the morning. Go and find the least path, the path of least resistance to get what you want sooner rather than later. And that's what, Ryan, that's what it's what I help people do. I help people get over their limiting beliefs that, there's nothing I have of value, that there's no way I could ever provide $1,000 worth of value to 10 people a month. No way. Then stay in your day job.
Mm. All right. Wow. Yeah. Lots of good nuggets here. I knew this was going to be a good episode, but I'm like, I love it. This episode is launching at the beginning of the year, and I think it's perfect timing to just think through, like, man, what do I want this year, right? What do I want? And starting with the end in mind, I think that is just so smart. And I feel like there's so many people that are stuck in this job that they don't want, that whatever the cost is, they want to get over. I don't care. Like, I just need to get out of this thing. But without thinking about these other things, then you start this business. And, I talk to so many people. I work with so many people that are frustrated with their clientele. They're not charging enough money. But then, there's companies like ours and other companies where we are charging what we want to be charging. And of course, we always want to be charging more, but we're profitable on all of our jobs. We're not losing money. The only jobs that we're not profitable on are the ones that we say, like, no, we're going above and beyond, or we're donating this or whatever. So for people to just take that step back before, don't rush into, like, and I get being passionate and super excited and just wanted to do this and getting life in doing it, but starting with the end in mind, starting with, what is that number? I think back to when Andrea and I really first started on this journey together. I also remember being in our marriage therapist's office, and she's like, looking at me and saying, well, Andrea just said that, she wishes that you weren't working so much. And I'm like, whoa. This is 6 years into my business. We knew starting the business, I was going to be working a ton. That was just like, it was just assumed that I was going to be working a ton. But every year, my goal, the end in mind, was that I wouldn't be working this much. And so I was hiring employees, and I was passing off edits, and I was taking these steps, because I knew from the very beginning, I wanted to do this work more than anything, but I knew that I also wanted to be a dad that was at home, and for me to be able to experience something that I didn't get to experience as a child, and for my wife to be able to be at home with my kids. And the only way that can happen is if I'm actually making enough money. And I sort of, all through college, money, making money, it was just like, oh man, that's not, you don't want to, you want to make an impact in the world. And I didn't realize that you could actually do both. And sometimes the people with tons of money can have a greater impact in different areas, because money does stuff to help the world. It was an epiphany I didn't have until Andrea and I were married for years. And I felt guilty early on in our marriage for wanting to make more money. And so I'm like, okay, well, I just need to replace this $22,000 a year salary, and maybe $25,000, maybe $30,000. And then at some point it was like, no, this is good. There are so many people that, are asking us for help for starting this thing, for, money that we wanted to give to church and different organizations and whatever. And I'm like, we're strapped. We can't give any more money. This stinks. Like, I feel like I really want to help, but we can't. So to sort of come full circle and realize, like, oh my gosh, like, well, if I made more money, okay, how do I make more money? We need to charge more. Okay, well, if we charge more, what else we need to do? We need to book more jobs. So all the things that you're saying are so good. I wish that when we first started, I had bigger dreams in would have just said, like, what would it look like if I made $100,000? I'd have been like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even imagine what that would look like. But in reality, it's like every season of this work and every season of my life, I am being intentional and stepping back and saying, like, well, what would it look like if we made, 200, 300, 500, how would our lives look different? But also, how would the lives of the people around us and the people that we support and the things that we support, how would that make a difference? And it takes a load off, and it allows us to think and to be, I don't know, more proactive or more intentional in the decisions that we make. And so many creatives get stuck in that world of, like, I just want to make enough to get by, right? That's,
Yeah.
And that's fine. And it's fine for a season to build confidence and kind of get to that spot. But long term, you need to know that the thing that you have to offer the world, there is a lot of value in that. And you need to be able to value yourself and the work that you're doing, and constantly be on this upswing of charging more and valuing yourself more in your work and all that.
Absolutely. The one thing I can tell you, though, is that it doesn't have to start like most. I mean, it sounds like you had a very similar start to me. I started out charging $50 an hour for what I'm doing and feeling guilty for charging that much. And stuff like that. Right now, I'm averaging somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 an hour for a conversation with somebody. So
wait, are you billing me for this podcast episode?
Not at all.
Ask.
No, but what I will say, though, is that you don't have to start out at the $50 an hour. You don't have. Matter of fact, you don't even have to start out with an hourly rate. You could. now here's the thing. Ryan told me about the target audience for this. Most of you are in your creatives, video producers, and video production for you is a zone of genius thing, if not at least a zone of excellence. It's not like you're dabbling here. All right. That is an extremely valuable skill. If you haven't done the research, go and do the research that talks about the future of video and why every company needs to be communicating with video. All right. There is not one person watching this video or listening to this audio that does not have the ability to find 10 clients to pay $1,000 a month of recurring ongoing revenue. That's it.
Yeah.
Just so, one, you have to know what you want, know why you must have it. You have to ask yourself at what cost, which, by the way, I encourage you not only, it's kind of like this. It's like, okay, I want to make $120,000 a year. That's $10,000 a month so that I can do these things. This is what I must have to live the life I want. By the way, I will not work on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I only work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm willing to work from 10:30 to 5:30. That's it. So now, can I, within those hours of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, can I get everything that I need to do to, number one, find and create those 10 clients and also do the work that those 10 clients are paying me for that's valued at $1,000 a month recurring revenue? That's all there is to it. See, when you actually set the guidelines and the parameters and it's that clear, all of a sudden, I want you, if here's what I want you to do after you've decided that that's the life you want. I want a business, 120K, 10 clients, work no more than $1,000 a piece, recurring revenue, not just like a new client every month. I'm talking, you're signing this person up and they're signing up for a year at $1,000 a month. It's, $12,000 a year. All right. And they're paying you monthly recurring revenue. You've got 10 of those and you only work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All right. From 10:30 to 5:30. That is it. Now ask yourself, what can I do to make that a reality? And any other ideas that come up, like $39 a month membership sites and all this other, all of these other products and services and all these other, say no to every idea that comes up. If a good idea comes up and you're like, I might want to do that, great. Write it down on a list of things I might want to do one day, but never touch anything on that future project list until you're making a minimum of 10K a month every month consistently from your 10 clients that fit the life, and you're only working Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm sorry, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you've got margin inside of there because you've got your 10 clients and you could deliver everything you need to deliver within a day and a half for those 10 clients.
Yeah.
Now you got lots of free time. You can go work on your membership site.
I love it. I feel like as creatives, new ideas, it's just like, oh yeah, like we got all these different ways we could make money. And then also, for a lot of us, it's feast or famine. So when an opportunity comes up, it's like, oh shoot, maybe I should take that even though it doesn't fit. But I would say that most people haven't already defined what is the dream and what are the dream clients and what are the dream jobs. So we just say yes to almost everything, or if not everything. And that's not good because it doesn't give us that margin to say like, well, I don't have my ideal client on Thursday, so maybe I should just take this thing. Well, it's like, well, if you have Thursdays and you're not doing anything, use Thursdays to find that additional ideal client, right? I stopped working on Fridays starting this past summer. My friend Graham Cochran, who is a previous podcast guest, has been doing this for 10 years. And his whole thing, his show is awesome. He wants people, he hates when people are talking about the grind and the hustle and like all this stuff. And in the video world, the film world, like that's it. If you're going to make it, you got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to work super hard, you got to work 60, you just got to expect this. But to have a life, to have quality of life, like that's not possible. That's not doable. So I am a testament to say you can work less than 5 days a week, 6 days a week. You can work 4 days a week. You can have a healthy marriage. You can have a wife that loves you, or a spouse that loves you. And I'll get her on the show one day and I'm not going to make her say you can have kids that know your name and know that you're available, and you can have healthy relationships. Like it is possible. But I think exactly what you're saying, Cliff. It starts with a dream. it starts with actually defining, what do I want my life to look like? And then working backwards, say like, okay, how do I get there? We could stay on this for a long time. I love this. I'm so just humbled, honored. This has been very, very rich. I'm really excited to hear what people think of this episode. They might think we're both crazy, and that's fine.
It doesn't matter to me.
Is there anything else that you want to leave us with before we kind of fade out here?
Yeah. So get very clear. I mean, crystal clear about what you want your life to look like, with as many parameters that box this in. Box yourself into everything has to fit this picture. All right. And then decide to make that picture a reality. All right. So make a decision. By the way, the word decision, the root word in Latin is scission. You've heard of incision, to cut. A decision is you're cutting off any other possible outcome other than what you've create this picture you created. Another word is decide. All right. The root word of side is CID. That Latin is to kill. Homicide, pesticide. So you are literally killing. You're killing any other option other than what you've said. So Monday through Friday, 10:30 to 5:30, 10 clients. That's my life. That's what I want. I'm making a decision. I will do everything to make that a reality. Decide. Okay. So decide, and then you need to start saying, okay, what actions do I need? What behaviors would I need to start? What behaviors do I need to stop? What actions do I need to take? What actions do I currently, like what streams of income in my business now do I need to shut down? I want to create my life in such a way, I'm going to create a massive action plan, if you will. That's what Tony Robbins, he calls it your map. All right. You create a massive action plan. And here's my next piece of advice. I want to encourage you to fail and fail often, and keep changing your approach every time you fail until you get what you want.
Can you drop your mic? Is that? Boom. Oh, Cliff, this was excellent, man. How can people connect with you, follow what you're doing?
Well, I have a podcast called The Cliff Ravenscraft Show. You can find me at cliffravenscraft.com or mindsetanswerman.com, whichever is easiest for you to remember or spell. And those are the big things. And I'd love to tell people about my free online video. I have a conference called Free the Dream. It's my version of Tony Robbins' event called Unleash the Power Within. And I'm giving away free access to the opening keynote address to that talk. If you go to mindsetanswerman.com/free, there is a 90-second video clip. And I think at the top, the headline says, give me 60 minutes and I will teach you how to live the life of your dreams, or something like that. It's a bold promise, but here's what I will tell you. At the bottom, there's a place for you to put your name and email address. Yes, I'm that guy. But if you put it in there, you'll get instant access to that 1-hour video. And here's what I will tell you. I don't want you to put your name and email address into that form until you watch the 90-second video clip. If the 90-second video clip doesn't hook you, then just go about your business. You don't need to know anything else about me. But if you watch this, you'll be like many other people. I get about 100 people a week that are going through this, and about 80 out of those 100 people would email me to tell me how much it's transformed their life.
Wow. Impressive. Awesome. Yeah, and we'll include links in the show notes as well. Cliff, thank you so much, man. This was a huge honor. Like I said, loved it. Super rich. You way exceeded I knew it was going to be good, but you definitely exceeded my expectations here. So thank you.
It is my honor. Again, congratulations on what you've built. Congratulations on your business. I'm honored to have connected to you through this, Ryan. And I can just tell you, I don't tell this to everyone. I do at least one podcast interview per week, every week. And you could go back into the archives. I very rarely say this, but man, anytime you want to reach out to me and talk, I'm super impressed with what you've got going on. And just reach out to me, man.
Thank you. Well, there you have it. I think that's a wrap.